Hello and welcome to the Steve and Crypto Show Halloween special, presented by thestevestrout.com.
I'm Steve.
I'm Crypto Zoo. And man, are we excited for this holiday to be coming. We are only a few days away as we're recording this now, but you know, you'll be hearing it on Halloween. But right now we're a couple days away, and I'm so excited for it. Even though we're not really going to be trick-or-treating or anything, I mean, we're still going to make the best of the best holiday of the year. So this episode, we have not one, not two, but three guests and some extra little surprises thrown in throughout the episode. Steve, who do we got?
All right, so we have a great horror author named Tranchell. He just was on a list on the New York Times for having one of the 50 scariest novels set in a particular state of Utah. That's exciting. TJ is a good dude. Known him for a while, and he's fun to chat with. And we have a real practicing witch to dispel some of the myths about witchcraft and stuff. Our friend Thresa Hendricks, and she's always great person to talk to. And our old friend who you've heard multiple times throughout the episodes, the horror host Igorro, the man who plays him, Mark Pinkney, the actor, is he's here with us to chat, and we're pretty excited. It's kind of funny. It makes me think like a horror host, a witch, and a author walk into a podcast. Like, it sounds like what a bad joke premise is. And speaking of bad jokes, Crypto, who'd Frankenstein go trick-or-treating with?
I'm not sure who.
His girlfriend.
All right.
Since we got bad jokes, I know you got some for me.
Okay. Well, let's see. What kind of music do mummies like listening to on Halloween? Rap music.
Oh, Lord. I'm about to fire myself from this show. And, okay, how about where do ghosts buy their Halloween candy?
Where?
At the Ghostery store. Ghostery, huh? Yeah.
Oh.
Do you see these? You should have all these jokes because you're a dad now. So you should have all the dad jokes.
I got a few under my belt. All right. Well, what do skeletons order at a restaurant? Spare ribs?
Okay, we should probably spare the listeners any more of these stupid ass jokes. And
no more torture. No more torture for your ear holes.
Yeah. Anyways, let's get to the show. Happy Halloween, everybody. If you're not chilling listening to this and you're out doing crazy Halloween stuff, be safe, but then come home and listen to us.
Yeah. You know, maybe if you're just cruising around for the day on Halloween, put it on in the car, or if you're at home, you know, maybe just getting the house ready. Maybe you have like a little maze or a haunted house you're throwing together for the kids. Put on the Steve and Crypto Show in the background while you're setting things up. It's a fun listen.
Yeah, but just skip the jokes. Let's get to the show. Happy Halloween, guys.
Happy Halloween.
Hello, this is Igorro, host of the Igorro Show. And you are listening to the Steve and Crypto Show. So keep your ears open and your mouth shut.
Hey, welcome to the Steve and Crypto Show Halloween special, the spectacular. We are hanging out, chatting with TJ Tranchell. He, the New York Times this past week put up an article called 50 States, 50 Scares. And they listed the scariest book set in each state. And to his surprise, unexpectedly, TJ Tranchell was the author of Cry Down Dark, the scariest book set in Utah. Tell us about the story.
Oh, it's pretty amazing. So I woke up last Wednesday and opened Twitter, saw the author Grady Hendricks had mentioned that his book, My Best Friend's Exorcism, was listed as the scariest book set in South Carolina, by this New York Times list. And I thought, well, I'll have a look. It's going to be the usual suspects. Stephen King's going to be on there. Dean Koontz will be on there. Peter Straub. These other authors who I love. They're my heroes. I've read most of these books. And we'll just scroll down. And my books are mostly set in Utah, so where I grew up. So I'm going to scroll down and see what they picked. And there's Texas. It's Joe Lansdale. And there's Vermont, a Peter Straub book. And right in between there, Utah, TJ Tranchell. And I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I cried for like 5 minutes. It was just amazing because I had no warning. Like, they don't tell you anything like this is going to happen. And even in the week since then, I keep seeing some of the other authors on this list posting how humbled and amazed they are. And, these are like bestsellers and award winners. And I'm not that yet. Someday, maybe. But just to be in that company was just so fantastic. And I'm just absolutely shocked and surprised and humbled that my book even got into the hands of somebody at the New York Times.
That's exciting. I mean, I would definitely be humbled by it. But me, the way I think, I would be tooting my own horn up and down social media too.
Oh, I have been.
Man, I gotta say, TJ, like I'm very happy for you, man. Like I'm almost like, a little emotional. Like, man, just imagine like looking at that list. Like you wake up in the morning, you see your name there with those other names. Some of them you might admire. Like, oh, that's a great feeling.
It really has been
awesome.
And like, I still, I get a little chill every time just talking about it. And I told my wife, she was at work already by that point, and she was just like, what? And, and there's other people who have great books set in different places like that. And they're not on the list for their states because, whatever else was up. Like Stephen King, famous for all of his books set in Maine, isn't the author listed for Maine. They put Richard Matheson's Hell House, which is a great book, right? Love that book. But that was their pick for Maine. King got Colorado with The Shining, of course. And they even put one of his newer books, The Outsider, which takes place mostly in Oklahoma, as the book for Oklahoma. So he's on there a couple times. Dean Koontz is on there a couple times. Dan Simmons is on there a couple times. And so just the roll call of those authors, and then little old me is just still, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, it sounds to me like a lot of those guys are influences to you. And then to be included with them is like crazy.
They really are. Like even the book that's on the list, Cry Down Dark, I borrowed the title from a line in Stephen King's Bag of Bones. So there's that influence there. And I think really, if you look around at some of the authors, we all kind of influence each other. And hopefully maybe someday somebody will say, hey, your book influenced me to do my book and things like that. And that honestly, that would be the greatest compliment, to say I wrote something because I read something you wrote.
Yeah, that makes me think, like us, we've only been doing this podcast a month and a half now. And I already have people saying, oh, I'm going to start a podcast. You guys like inspired me to do it. And that's like, cool. It's like you don't know how to like take that in. You know what I mean? Like you don't,
right.
it's hard. It's a lot to process just hearing that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, even like I deliver, beer for a living, and I'm out on the road and whatnot. And I stopped into a store the other day and saw someone I knew, and they were like, "Hey, I downloaded your podcast," and I almost thought I kind of misheard them. I'm just not used to getting compliments or things like that said to me. So I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, I downloaded your podcast." Like, "Oh, really? Okay." Like you get a little excited, your ears perk up a little bit, like. Well, great, thanks.
That's like, I couldn't imagine like hearing that you're in the New York Times. That's like a whole different level of that, and that's cool.
Yeah.
And how much effect has it had on the sale of the book?
It's hard to tell right away with any print sales because those numbers are a little bit slower to rack up. But I can keep track of ebook sales on Amazon through Kindle sales, and I have actually doubled the sales of Cry Down Dark from its 4-year existence in the last week.
Wow, man, that's awesome.
That's great.
It is awesome. That's still not a lot of books because I hadn't sold a lot. Ebooks haven't been a huge market for me, and honestly, I haven't sold a lot of books overall. But I'm happy for every sale, every person that buys one. So it's made a huge difference. There's still a lot of people selling more books than I am, and that's cool. I'm happy for them, but it's been a big, big boost for me, and even more than the sales numbers, just the validation of I've been doing this for so long. I have 3 books out now. That first book, I wrote the first line of Cry Down Dark in 2006, and it was published in 2016.
Right.
So just that length of time to finally to have somebody like that say you did the right thing is just so huge. And ultimately what has to happen, of course, is that I have to finish something else, right? I can't just go, I was in the New York Times once and sale. Like, no, that's not happening. Got to keep going.
Right. Yeah. Give us a little summary of Cry Down Dark.
The book is about a man named Peter Toombs. He's a TV writer. He created a series, sort of an anthology horror series and something like that. And he finds out that his high school and college girlfriend has died of a brain tumor. And he's still pretty obsessed with her. And so he goes back to Utah where they grew up, buys her childhood home because he's convinced that if he lives there, she will come back and haunt him. So he's just messed up, one of those messed up people that wants to see a ghost, but not just any ghost will do. It has to be this one.
That's like a really unique, premise for a story though. I see why it would get noticed, because it's like you see a lot of stories that are kind of just seem derived from another story that you've read, but that's like it's unique. That's all I could say about that.
It still feels pretty unique to me too, just the love story aspect, because that is there. Like the funny part is that, so here it's now listed as this scariest book, but over the last few years, I've heard more people say that it made them cry than scared them because it has that sort of tragedy to it. And I'm all for that. If I can't scare you, sure, I'll make you cry. Any emotional reaction is good for me. I'll take it.
What are some other books that you've published?
I have 2 other books out at this time. They're both collections of short stories and essays. There's Asleep in the Nightmare Room, which also includes some poetry, which I don't write a lot of, and a section of essays on horror movies, right? Because that's how we roll. We like our scary movies.
I love it.
And then a bunch of short stories. And the short stories in that book are kind of like the best of what I had written for the entire time that I had decided to really write. And so they're wildly different in tone because they are from such a long range of time. I just recently released a second collection titled The Private Lives of Nightmares. And those are all stories and a couple essays from essentially the last 3 years since the other book was published. And I didn't intend to make that a book this year, this 2020. I had another book that is actually technically a follow-up to Cry Down Dark. It's sort of set in the same area. And it had been picked up by a small publisher. And then before the book could be released, the publisher essentially ran out of capital, needed to get a real job again. And my rights came back to me. So the book didn't get published this year. And I thought, it's been 3 years since I've had a book out. I got enough material here. Let's get this done. And I did. And it's doing okay so far. But things like that, it'll pick up as time goes on, I'm sure.
Right. That's good. So being the Halloween special episode, what are your big Halloween plans?
The big plans right now, well, Halloween happens to be my birthday.
Ooh, nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's so weird. People say, oh, do you write horror because your birthday is on Halloween? Like, well, I don't know, but it didn't hurt. Right? It just kind of happened that way. With the pandemic and all, there's a lack of haunted houses. That's usually what I do. Try to hit one every year. And some years even work in them. That was my very first job when I was 15.
Oh, that's awesome.
Chasing people with a chainsaw in a haunted forest. So this year, I think we got some drive-through trick-or-treating to do. I have a 7-year-old son, and he has his Grim Reaper costume all ready to go. And then everybody will go to sleep, and I'll stay up late and watch horror movies.
Happy birthday to you, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that sounds about right. It sounds like what most of us are going to do is stay up and just watch horror movies because going out is probably, I mean, it's if you're smart about it, I guess you can get out a little bit, but be safe.
Some candy just in case, but yeah, everybody should just be safe. It's better that way. Be safe this year so we can have Halloween again next year.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to curl up on Halloween with one of your books, where would you be a good starting point?
If you want it by Halloween, starting point would be to hit up Amazon, get it on your digital, get it on the Kindle reading apps. If you don't actually have a Kindle, you can read them on any tablet or phone that way. If you just want a print copy and get it in a few days, Amazon's a great place. Hit up your local bookstores. They can order it for you. But if you really want to go deep, you can order signed copies directly from me through my website, tjtranchell.com, or message me on social media. Really, Twitter's the best place too for that. TJ_Tranchell, and I will get one out into the mail to you for a reasonable price.
That's good. Right now, it's a good time for it's a good time in the state of the world to be looking for the reasonable prices. That's for sure.
It is. It really is. I'm not out to gouge anybody, but at the same time, making it a professional endeavor. Yeah.
You got bills, man.
I do. Everybody does.
For sure. So, back to your work. Who would you say would be what would be your biggest influence in becoming an author? Or is there like a moment or something you were reading that you were just like, I need to be a writer?
It sounds so cliche now because there's a whole generation of us, but I read Misery when I was 11, which is not the happiest writer book in the world. But that was it. I was like, yep, that's what I'm going to do. It's like, I'm going to stop being scared and I'm going to go scare other people. And this is how I'm going to do it. And so I tinkered around for a long time with that. And then in my late teens and early 20s, it's like getting really serious about it and not selling anything, couldn't get anything placed. And so I went back to school and really started taking it seriously. And even then it still took a while, but really that age 11 reading Misery, I said, this is what I'm going to do.
It's that moment. Yeah.
Yep.
Not to keep backtracking, but you did mention watching scary movies all night on Halloween. What is probably your favorite horror movie?
Favorite horror movie? My favorite horror movie, pure horror movie, is The Exorcist. But for Halloween movies, you got to watch The Crow. It kind of gets forgotten about sometimes because it's not necessarily a horror film, but it is a Halloween movie, and it still has that tragic love story. It has plenty of violence for those who want violence, but it's set on Halloween, so you can't go wrong with The Crow. Especially,
nice choice.
And so many people are into superhero movies right now, and that was really one of the first big blockbuster superhero comic book movies, right? There was the Batman movies, starting in 89, but The Crow in 94, man, that's a go-to.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely a good one. It definitely visually it screams Halloween.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But anything you want to add, Crypto?
Well, you kind of just took the main question that I had for him, was the favorite, Halloween movie and all. But I thought it was cool that you said that you actually worked in a haunted house for a little bit, because I worked in a haunted house as well.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah. I had a blast with it. We, the one year that I worked in it, we kind of had like a haunted saloon theme.
Nice.
And I was in like all black, and I was behind the bar top, and there's another woman across from me, and they had like a couple like fake bodies in chairs, and basically people would come around the corner and they'd be looking at the table. She would scare them, and then I would come up from behind and slam this jug down on the table.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And so after, however many times of slamming that jug down, it broke on one of those times. And so we turned the lights on in the whole place, make sure everybody's all right, cleaned up the broken glass, and we sent them on their way through the rest of the thing. Now, so my question to you is, in your time working in a haunted house, did you guys have any fumbles or any accidents or anything like that? Anything fun that you can tell us about?
Oh yeah. So one year I worked at Freakling Brothers horror shows down in Las Vegas. They've been 25 years running, one of the best in the West haunted houses. They're like USA Today #1 haunted house. And so I was there one year, and the role I had most of the month was the second to last scare, like the setup guy. But on Halloween night, our gatekeeper, essentially, like the first guy who lets people in, is crowd control, he couldn't handle the crowd because there were about 1,200 people lined up in this parking lot waiting to come through the house. He got too nervous and he couldn't do it. So we swapped out. And so I took the front spot. He took my spot in the back. And because it's Halloween, you get in these haunted houses, you always get those people who want to protest and say that, people who celebrate Halloween, you're all going to hell and all of that. So the house director told me that if I could get the entire crowd to chant Hail Satan, that I would get a bonus. And I did. I got them. 1,200 people. And the protesters after that didn't stick around very long.
Oh, man.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
It was pretty great.
Well,
but it's the little subtle things. Like we would have people go around and find out people's names while they were waiting in line. And then give enough of a description so people in the house would know who they were when they came through. And in that kind of situation, you can't see who people are behind makeup and masks. You don't know. And then you hear your name. Oh, so good. So good. Because we were in Vegas. Good. We were in Vegas, so we would get like UNLV football players and just lay them out when you hearing their names called. I love it.
See, the haunted house that I'm in, that I worked for, we had a great time, but we didn't do anything like that. Like,
that's USA Today.
Devious.
USA Today, best in the nation, man.
Yeah, that's why.
That's how you do it. That's like
why.
The next level.
Yeah, they're fun.
Well, on that note, we're gonna wrap up here in just a moment. Thank you for being on the Halloween special.
Anytime.
Let's run down your social media and website and tell people where you could buy the books at again.
Yep. Of course, always on Amazon. I'm pretty easy to find there. I am the only one of me. But hit up tjtranchell.com or on Twitter at TJ_Tranchell. And I will get back to you. And I love interacting with people. So I'm easy to find.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks again for coming on, TJ. And
thank you.
Definitely circle back and we'll get on here and chat longer very soon. Love to have you on and talk more about the books, and
anytime.
It'll be a good time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Looking forward
hey,
to
man. Happy birthday. Happy Halloween.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween.
You and your
Happy
family
Halloween.
have a good time. Be safe.
You too. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. You are listening to the Steve and Crypto Podcast Special Halloween Edition. Dr. Fearless here, telling you to remember, read all of the good books, especially Count Crowley. Now, enjoy the show.
Hey, we're here on the Halloween special, the Steve and Crypto Show. And this is Steve talking with my friend Thresa Hendricks. She's a great artist and a practicing witch. And she's going to dispel some of the myths and rumors about witches being devil worshippers and evil and all that bad stuff. Tell us more about what it means to be a witch.
So for myself, I like to call myself an eclectic witch, which I don't call myself a title, not Wiccan, not pagan. And that means I really like to bounce all over the place and pick and choose what I learn, what I want to absorb. And also being Sagittarius, I'm the seeker of information. It's the house of the seeker. And so that helps drive me to pick up books, to study, to make it an everyday thing. So it is definitely practicing with what is happening in the now. Sure, you can look forward. Sure, you can look back and do shadow work and take care of those things that could be eating at somebody. But I really like to look at the days of the week, what phase is the moon in, what astrological tendencies are going on, and involve them with my life or with other people's lives if I'm doing, life coaching with them, if they're coming to me with questions on life or bringing them into my tarot reading. I actually read with 3 decks, and one of my decks is an astrological deck.
Okay, and you mentioned the moon phases.
Yes.
Since this is the Halloween special, and Halloween, we have a full moon on Halloween. Is there any spiritual ramifications of the way that aligns?
This has been the Halloween that we've all been waiting for. We've been waiting for it to 1, land on a weekend, 2, be on the full moon. Super spooky, right? But we're still trickling off of this pandemic, wondering if we're ever going to experience a normal or if this is the new normal. On top of that, we experienced 2 full moons this month, people. So That's called a blue moon. When you ever hear blue moon, it means there's 2 full moons in 1 month. So the second full moon of the month occurs on the 31st, which is Halloween. And it's going to be in the sign of Taurus, which is the house of possessions too. You might find yourselves already getting rid of a lot of things when usually you should be doing that in the springtime. But, you know, we're starting to like take a bunch of stuff to Goodwill or cleaning out our houses, and it's fall. So it serves to reawaken an urgent and intense in the physical world and our own sensual needs and desires. And Scorpio season is the season of like sex, desires, secrets, destruction, detective work, all of that good stuff. So we should watch for stubbornness at this time, although some self-interest is healthy and necessary. The moon is tightly aligned with Uranus, bringing some excitement and or tension to our lives, leading to a new perspective. Unpredictability can stir things up, and surprises are likely during this time. So new spins on how to get comfortable can be in focus right now for everyone.
That's interesting to take in, like, because me personally, I don't delve much into spirituality and stuff, but I think we think we don't, but in a way, we probably all do in one way or another.
Absolutely, yeah.
But so again, back to Halloween. How do you plan to celebrate your Halloween spiritually and just as fun, just having a good time, like normal Halloween?
Yeah,
people
okay.
that regular people that us normal folks usually get into.
So every day I do morning rituals for myself, and it entails anything that's making me feel good at the moment, which is checking my chakras for the day, making sure I'm meditating and doing some sort of stretching or exercise. But that morning is going to be new for me. I'm going to be bathing that morning. I love bath magic. I definitely believe in like cleansing and getting ready for that, because it'll be my first time reading out of a public business, which is a brand new hair salon that opened called New Moon Beauty Lounge. And that's in Port Townsend on 930 Washington Street. And the owner is my friend, Juliet Martin, who actually has the same birthday as me. So
Juliet's
that's really
super cool too. I've known
Yes!
Juliet a while. She's awesome. And that's in Port Townsend, Washington.
Yes.
For all you millions of listeners around the world.
And so I start from 1 to 7. I'm going to put a sandwich board outside with all the slots from like 1, 1:30, 2, 2:30, all the way to 7. So if you walk up and see that I'm with somebody, you will know to wait outside that door, and I'll come grab you for a next reading. And then after that, I'm just going to let fate, take me, because I'll be dressed up, and see if I can find people to mingle with, and just see the excitement of the full moon. And also, this is a time of letting things go. And on top of things that are happening for the days of the week, as like spell work or wanting to do things, Saturdays are about like letting things go or setting new intentions. So full moons show light to everything that has happened for that whole month. So it gives us a chance to look at all this hard work that we've been putting in and then just enjoy it. And also Saturdays are a day for some people of relaxation too, if you get weekends off. So this is definitely a time to enjoy and relax and let go.
So you're doing tarot readings at the salon.
Yes.
People that aren't in the area, do you do any online tarot readings, or is that a thing? Yeah.
I definitely do over the phone, and it works really well.
So can people connect with you on social media?
Yes, through witchartist_Thresa on Instagram, and my name is spelled Thresa.
Okay, and we'll definitely make sure to link that.
Yeah.
Sounds like you got a good plan for Halloween, and
yes,
honestly, being a witch don't sound so scary. Like flying brooms and none of that crazy stuff. But
Right. I do have brooms and I do use them, but I don't fly on them.
You don't fly. Yeah. But yeah, well, thank you for taking a few minutes and teaching us a little something.
Yes.
And what's that Instagram one more time?
So it is Witch, WITCH, artist, ARTIST, _ THRESA, Thresa.
Perfect. Thanks again. Happy Halloween.
You too. Cause trouble.
Oh yeah, always. Welcome back to this next segment of the Steve and Crypto Show Halloween special. We are joined by the actor Mark Pinkney. And tell us about some of the stuff you've done, Mark.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm originally an actor. I got my degree at Cornish in Seattle. I got a degree in theater, and then I realized pretty quickly that theater is all well and good, but there's really no money in theater, which is, it's a great training ground. So anyway, I got my degree in theater, and then I went immediately into film and commercial work in Seattle. So I lived there most of my life, and there was a pretty lucrative market in Seattle. So I did a lot of commercial work, and what they do is also, as an actor, unless you're a star, you got to do whatever you can do. So I did a lot of commercials and industrials. As a matter of fact, I'm shooting industrial next Tuesday here in Spokane, which is where I live now. And industrials are like in-house commercials. They're like I got a guy that I know that we worked at the Blue Door. He goes, "Hey, I just saw you in a industrial," because it was about sexual misbehavior in the workplace. But in order to make it less typical and perverted, I was the one that was uncomfortable. So there's this girl massaging my shoulders, and it made me uncomfortable. So I talked to my boss, which is so stupid, because what guy's not going to want a massage from any woman? Any woman.
At work.
Rub
right?
away, baby.
Yeah.
At work, yeah. So they reversed it. So I was the uncomfortable one and stuff. But anyways, like, yeah, I saw you in this. I thought, yeah, well, that was something I did. So anyway, yeah, so I'm an actor. I went down to LA. I did a lot of work down there. I worked with a lot of interesting scenarios. We did Head the Musical, which is based on The Brain That Wouldn't Die. And down in LA, we did the musical Head the Musical, which is, I don't know if you know that movie. Do you know that movie?
The Brain That Wouldn't Die?
The Brain That Wouldn't Die, yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I sure do.
So this was the musical, same thing, this guy, he saves his wife's head, and then he goes out and looks for a new body. So he goes to strippers and stuff. He's looking for the ultimate body to put on the head. And I played Kurt, which was the Igorro assistant. So Igorro is kind of based on a little bit of that guy. So being an actor, though, I've been a big horror film fan ever since I was a kid. So when I saw Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, Christopher Lee, a Hammer film, I saw that at the theater when I was a kid. And that's where I went, wow, that is cool. Because, Lugosi before him was kind of a slow-moving guy that had a cape and walking down with a candle and hello. And it's like, yeah, what? But Christopher Lee, when they show the cross, he's like, he bares his fangs and he jumps out the window and his cape's flying behind him. And very active, very action-oriented. I found that really exciting. So it inspired me to want to be an actor. So that's kind of where my inspiration comes to be an actor. So yeah, I've done some weird gigs as an actor. I've done a lot of commercials, a lot of films, mostly low-budget films, lots of industrials, and I still do stage work here and there. A lot of improv. Did a lot of improv in Seattle. As you know, I played a very famous corporate clown for a while, which was a good gig because no one knew who I was, and it paid really well. And I still have a house on Queen Anne in Seattle as a result of that job. But I'm not proud. It was just it's what I had to do.
Yeah, do what you gotta do.
Yeah, do what you gotta do. But anyway, yeah. So that's kind of where I'm from. That's kind of what I do.
Right. So, this is the Halloween special, and people are probably like, okay, what's this guy got to do with Halloween? Well, he I don't know if you guys been listening to the show, but we have that really cool soundbite from Igorro, who is one of my favorite new horror hosts, and somebody that I've been working closely with to help push the character and everything. And as Mark mentioned, he created Igorro. He is Igorro. And what exactly inspired Igorro?
Well, when I was a kid, there was Nightmare Theater. Are you from the Northwest, Steve?
I am out of Connecticut. So where I grew up, I didn't have a horror host. I had a creature double feature series out of Boston, which was cool. I got to see a lot of the old movies, but didn't have a host. My host was closest to a host I got was like the Crypt Keeper or, Elvira on all the Coors Light commercials.
Right.
I'm from the Northwest, though. I was born. Yeah, I was born in Bremerton, and I've been living over here in Port Townsend since I was about 4 years old. So, yeah.
Okay, so do you? I don't know how old you are. You probably are young.
32.
Oh, so
he probably missed the count. Yeah.
You missed the count. Yeah, you're a child, a young man. Yeah, so I'm an old man. So yeah, I saw the Cairo Count. It was Count. The Cairo Count was the one that I saw on Nightmare Theater in Seattle. So that's where, when I was a kid, you couldn't watch movies. You couldn't go down to like Blockbuster or Safeway and pick up a movie. You couldn't do any of that. You missed a movie, you missed it. That was it. So I would get the TV Guide. I would go to Friday nights and I would see what's the movie. And I would highlight the movie like I'm not going to remember. And I would stay up as late as I could to watch it. It started going later and later and later. I remember at one point it started at 11:45, and I'm like, just a kid, and I'm just trying to keep awake to see these movies. And I'd be like, God damn it, I missed it. I'll never know that. I'll never see that movie again. It'll be another year before that movie plays. I remember they had 4 features on Halloween. They had Frankenstein, Dracula, Son of Frankenstein, and Son of Dracula. I started dipping out around Son of Frankenstein, and I remember thinking, I'll never know what Son of Dracula was like, what he even looked like. So that was my inspiration, the Cairo Count. Well, I actually met when I was older. I did a lot of mime, and I played Dracula. And I went to this gig where I met him and JP Patches, which again you guys probably don't know, but the Cairo Count and JP were hanging out, and I got to talk to him, and that was pretty exciting. So this whole horror host thing for me, I never really intended on doing anything like this, but when I moved to Spokane, I got in at the studio here, CMTV, which is a really nice studio down here. And I thought, sometimes you just start on something to do, just to keep yourself focused and going. And since I'm a big horror film fan, it was kind of right up my alley. So that's kind of how it grew. And that's my inspiration from it. And then when I was in LA, when I finished doing Head the Musical, the guy that owned the theater, the Met Theater, his name was Paul Koslow, who you wouldn't recognize his name, but he was an actor we all knew. He was in a lot of Clint Eastwood movies. He was the guy in the original Omega Man that had the jean jacket with the FU on the back. I don't know if you guys ever saw that movie with Charlton Heston. Anyway, he was the player there. So I did a film there in agreement that I could use his theater as a studio. So I made The Amazing Rocket Man, which is a parody of old cliffhangers, which I was thinking about showing on Igorro, but I haven't done that yet. But when I made that down there, I noticed about actors in LA is like, they'll be like, everybody's like, oh, I'm going to make a movie. And everybody's like, But if you actually say, starting this Saturday at 7, can you be there? Everybody's like, yeah, I'll be there. Because everybody talks, but nobody ever does anything. A lot of people wait for money and this and that. And I'm like, if you wait for money, you're never going to make a movie. You just got to grab your shoestrings, get some duct tape and just make the movie. You don't worry about your budget or anything. You just start doing it. So when I started doing it, everybody showed up. I got a really, really strong group of actors. I got a guy named Rick Wasserman, who nobody knows, but he's the voice on AMC that next on Walking Dead. He does all their voiceovers. He's their signature voice guy. He's got a great voice, and he's just a little guy. And he did the voice for the Hulk, the universe. I can't remember the name of the film now, but it's an animated Hulk film. And
Planet
he played
Hulk?
the Hulk. Yeah, he played the Hulk.
Was it Planet Hulk?
Yes, it was Planet Hulk. Yes, good job.
I love that story.
Exactly. Yeah, and Rick Wasserman is the guy that he plays the thug in my Rocket Man film. So that was a real great experience. He's a great guy, but like I said, he's just a little guy. I also met Charles Napier in my first independent film that I did. Charles Napier is the guy that was the hippie in the old Star Trek. Hey, brother, the one where they go Garden Eden and they eat the apple and die.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he's also the guy that got hung up in Silence of the Lambs, the cop that gets hung up.
Oh.
Anyway, he was the groans for the Hulk in the TV show. That was him doing all the groaning. So that's my name drops. I also worked with Gene Hackman and got a lot of inspiration for a lot of people. So, but I still struggle. Every day I struggle. So the thing that's great about Igorro is I get control over my own project. That's what I liked about The Amazing Rocket Man is that, I was worried about my lines, but I realized I knew all the lines because I wrote it. So you never have to worry about learning your lines because you know them. They're in your head. They're in your consciousness. So plus sometimes you get really difficult directors. When I was in LA, I worked with some real not good people. And what I've noticed is that a lot of commercial directors are frustrated because they want to be doing film. And it's like, look, you're making way more if you just do commercials. Just put your ego in your pocket and do your job. But yeah, I've worked with some real great people and some real not great directors, just kind of yin-yangs. So I am working now on my own content, making my own content. And that kind of puts control back into your world. So I'm trying to figure out a way to make this grow a little better because I realize online and stuff, there's like 1 billion hosts. And there's only one Svengoolie, as you were saying, Steve. Everybody loves Svengoolie. I do too. I'm like, that's his niche. I mean, there's him and Elvira, and that's about it. And Joe Bob. But it's a real, succinct, small market. So I'm not really sure how to make that grow. So all I worry about is just keeping the content growing. And it's slow for me because I work alone. So I do all my own stuff. I don't really have anybody else. I do all the production work. I paint the backgrounds. I write the music. I play the music. Not because I have a big fat ego, but because I'm too cheap to pay anybody. And everybody wants money and I don't have any. So I have to do it all myself, Plus I like the control of it. It's kind of nice, but it takes a long time. It's very, very tedious. I was editing today and I'm like, God, I got to cut it here. I got to do this. I got to do that. So,
but I mean,
I'm
at least
talking a lot.
No, that's good. That's good. At least if you're doing all the work, what you put out, it makes or breaks with you. You know what I mean? It's like it's your.
Yeah, I take full responsibility.
There's nobody else to be mad at.
Yeah.
I can't blame anybody else. Can't blame anybody else. I'm like, yeah, well, that's me. Sorry.
Now, I got a quick question.
Sure.
You're talking about, writing the music for it and everything and doing the music yourself. So did you actually learn to play music at a young age, or did you start, learning how to play music for the show because you wanted to do it yourself? What came first?
I was in a band, Horizontal Frankenstein, which was kind of a punk pop band. But no, I took piano. My mom put me in piano and dance when I was like 5 years old. I didn't tell anybody about the dance part. But I took tap dance, and I worked with this woman named Marion Hayjade. She would play piano. She'd play the piano, and she'd like da 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 da, and you would tap, and she would, and she was really good. And she, like I said, I was like 5, 6 years old, and I took it for about 7, 8 years. And same with piano. I was horrible at reading piano. Like if I knew the song, I'd play it out of my head. And then my dad would come home and he would read music. He's like, "You're in the wrong key. Get your foot off the sustain pedal." I'm like, "Oh." But yeah, so I took it really young. And since my piano teacher was not very mean or condescending, I wasn't discouraged. So I just kept with it. And then I just kept playing and always managed to have either an electrical weighted keyboard or a piano where I live. So I can still work on music. I've always written music. I write just pop songs. And then, like I said, I worked with this one guy, Ron Hippie, a really great musician in Seattle. And we used to jam all the time. He'd come over and we'd drink way too much beer and we'd go in my basement and we would just play and play. We had a drum kit down there. My basement was underground, so no one cared or heard. And I was single, so no one cared or heard. And it was so great. It was just so fun.
I'm a drummer, so the neighbors.
Oh yeah, there you go.
The neighbors care when they hear it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's not quiet. You can't drum quiet. No. Yeah, you got to be buried below. I'm sure my neighbors were annoyed, but so do you play at certain times? Do you have an agreement with them when you can play?
Unfortunately, I really can't play where I'm at now. The neighbors are just a little too old and cranky. One of my old houses I lived in, I had a piano teacher that lived across the street, and she actually would ask, she'd bump into me outside. She'd be like, "Is everything okay? Like, I haven't heard you play in a while." She actually enjoyed hearing me play.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, these old folks, they'll lose their hearing soon. And then, like, my parents are so old now. I'm like, my parents are both 90. They're both, well, my dad's 89. He'll be 90 soon. But anyway, the TVs are so loud at their house. I'm like, Jesus, what are you doing? Oh, that's right. They can't hear. So that could happen. That's something to think about, Crypto. That could happen.
All right.
So, let's talk a little more about Igorro.
Sure.
Igorro has the big Halloween special coming up.
Yeah.
What's going to be happening with that?
Well, I heard you talking earlier, and I agree with you. I think one of the hard things about doing hosts is that you have to watch a movie that everybody's seen a million times that isn't even very good. And even when I watch my own Igorro, I'm like, God, this film. It's like a film. And I collect horror films. I have every film I've shown, except for Plan 9, I actually have copies of. But you can't do the good films. So since I didn't really want to do the usual thing for this, because I think this episode is going to be shorter, I'm not doing an actual show. I'm not hosting a movie. I'm just doing clips and highlights and talking about different things. Talking about my, I'm having a section on Dawn Post monster masks and trick or treat masks, and I'm doing stuff about interviews and times I've met like Don Post, who I met Don Post and his son. So I'm going to be doing impressions from horror films, a couple of impressions. I'm going to be doing some quick things about masks and stories about people I've met in the business, the monster movie business. And then I'm going to premiere the Plan 9 from Outer Space song, which I did for Plan 9 from Outer Space. Excuse me. But I wasn't happy with it. And my sound designer is kind of grouchy. So I was like, every time I had to go down to his house to work on it, he was just like, he got to a point where there was tension. So I'm like, okay. So I thought I'll just wait. I'll finish it and so I'm going to premiere it in the Halloween episode, and then I'll put it back into the Plan 9 from Outer Space episode. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put in my Roswell song in there and then a couple of other things. So, and then I might just put in some clips, because I know you can show parts from real movies that are films that people like Creature from the Black Lagoon. And do you guys have any idea how much you can show before you get in trouble?
I really not sure. I mean, I guess.
Is it like 30 seconds or a minute?
Well, I know when it comes to music, I mean, aren't you able to use like 6 seconds of a sample before it becomes a problem? I don't know exactly when it comes to film.
Yeah. I know music's even worse. I mean, their copyrights are really like if you change the bars enough, then you get out, you're out of trouble. But I don't know. So I'm thinking I got to be careful with that. I don't I don't want to get in trouble. Weird things happen, and it's usually music. It's funny you mention that. Like when I did Frankenstein Meets a Space Monster, it said that there was some copyrighted material that would maybe not show in certain countries. I'm like, what? And then I realized it was some song, but it plays okay on YouTube because I guess it's only in the Philippines where you can't play it or something like that. So anyway, I want to show clips of the creature and stuff, but I'm not sure if I can do it without getting in trouble.
We'll have to dig in and do some research for you real quick.
Yeah.
Come up with, and if I come up with anything, I'll shoot you a message, of course. But
let me know.
The episode sounds like it should be fun. Good Halloween, and you're releasing it on Halloween Eve.
Friday. Actually, Friday. It'll be on Friday. It'll be on the Monster Channel on Friday. It'll be on YouTube on Friday, and then it'll be on CMTV, channel 14 here in Spokane on Friday at 8:00, I think.
Right. And so since it's Halloween, and I know you're into it, what how are you and your family going to celebrate with all the social distancing and
wear a mask over your mask.
Mask,
yeah. The kids aren't going out because who wants to get COVID with your Hershey bar? So I'm like, so we're going to do something with some of their friends here, I think, some kind of little haunted house or something. But or we'll hide candy here or something. So the social, the COVID stuff, I think, has really put a dent, in our lives. And I think that, I'm not comfortable sending my kids to school. I have to, like I've told you, Steve, I have to help them with Zoom. My kids are 6 and 10, so I have no life. And when they're on Zoom, I mean, it's a nightmare. It's truly a nightmare because, just imagine 6 years old sitting in front of a screen. Your attention span just goes, it's crazy. So, and it's changed a lot of stuff. It changed. The studio closed down, which is why now I'm filming mostly at home. They're open now, but, I used to teach acting classes. You can't do theater. You can't do live events. So that's another nice thing about Igorro is that, there's no restriction, other than the studio, which, like I said, is now open again. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to hang out, have fun, do fun stuff, I think, hope.
Before we wrap up the segment, can we maybe get a little promo from Igorro for the Halloween special?
Sure.
Hello. Welcome to the Igorro Show. Tonight's feature is a Halloween surprise. Surprise. There'll be mask talk. There'll be film clips if I can do it without getting sued. There'll be things that I talk about that only Igorro talks about. And there'll be plenty of, and there's also a prize for the person who found Igorro in the Attack of the 50-Foot Bride poster when I was hiding inside the car. I'll announce him too, and I'll also announce what his one, so don't miss Igorro. Halloween Eve, well, actually, no, Halloween, October 30th, 8 p.m. See you if you dare.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
good.
you.
I love how you could just snap right into character, not a character. I would need a good half hour to stretch out and get my voice ready and
drink a gallon or two of water.
Yeah. Well, I always need the water. Yeah, I got to say, the last thing closing, I'm doing this, and I do an impression. And it doesn't read as well on film as it does live, but it wears me out every time, and I always throw my voice out. So let me know when you see it, and see if you can guess which impression that is.
And we're going to see
I bet it'll be easy. Yeah, check it out.
The special?
Yeah, Yeah,
Okay.
it's on the special.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again. Have
you
a
very
good
much.
Halloween.
Yeah, nice to meet you and good to see you, Steve.
Yeah.
You and your family enjoy yourselves. Be safe. Have a good time. Don't eat too much candy.
Oh yeah.
Or eat a lot of candy, and your dentist will love you because he'll make a lot of money off you. Or
Yeah, he's already making a buttload off of me. All right.
Cool, man. You have a
happy
good night.
Halloween. Thanks for
Happy
talking
Halloween,
with us.
guys. Thanks so much. I'll see you soon.
All
Thank
right.
Or not. All right. Bye.
Perfect.
All right.
Hey guys, this is Ivonna Cadaver, host of Macabre Theater, and you're listening to Steve and Crypto Show Halloween Special. And maybe, just maybe, you guys, Butch and I, aka Eddie Munster, will be joining very, very soon.
Hey, you guys. Thank you for listening to the Steve and Crypto Show Halloween Special. And it just went from special to spectacular, because if you listen to us, you know how important the movie Night of the Living Dead is to me, how much I love that movie, how much I talk about that movie. I probably mention it in every episode in the month and a half we've been putting shows out. So I am really excited to have this guest on for a visit for our Halloween episode. We have none other than Johnny from Night of the Living Dead, Mr. Russ Streiner. How are you doing tonight, Russ?
Hey, Steve. Happy Halloween. Glad
Thank you.
to participate in your special Halloween edition.
It's an absolute honor to have you here. So, how are you doing? You doing all right? This year has been kind of tough for a lot of us, but you hanging in there? And
I'm like everybody else. I'm trying to follow the simple rules, try to keep my health, try to keep other people's health, and ride this thing out. I have some pretty strong political views, which I won't share with you tonight, but I'm one of those guys who believes in letting the scientists and the public health officials do their job, let them set out some solid guidelines for us, and then follow them. You know, it's not a big imposition on me if I wear a mask when I'm around other people, if I pay attention to the distance that I keep away from people and people keep away from me. It's what's that road construction sign say? Temporary inconvenience, permanent improvement, something like that. That's the way I view it.
Exactly. So pretty much we all definitely need to do our part to stay safe, and especially right now, Halloween. I don't know, a lot of different areas of the country have different plans. Some are still allowing trick-or-treating, some still aren't. But either way, no matter what you guys do, be safe. Let's stay healthy, and let's talk about Night of the Living Dead.
Before we jump into Night of the Living Dead, I honestly feel sorry for young trick-or-treater kids these days. You know, to me, Halloween was always a big time. It was a get dressed up, pretend to be somebody else. Whether you had a good costume or a cheesy costume, you were for at least that day at school, and that evening you were adopting a different character. But with something like what's going on now, these kids they miss out on a thing like that, and that makes me feel sad, actually.
Yeah, it is. It's like it's an escape that they're not really gonna get, and like the way this year has been going, like I mentioned, it's been rough on a lot of us. Not having that escape is hard, just especially for kids.
Yeah,
you know, as adults we kind of get it, we understand, but to tell a little kid that you can't, you know, it's like telling me you can't have a birthday party. That's hard.
Exactly
That's
right.
sad.
Yeah.
But Night of the Living Dead first. Thank you for your part.
Yeah.
Thank you for your part in that movie. That's classic. And I know you probably get asked a million times about the line. One of the greatest lines.
Which line is that?
Which one? The one when you're grunting trying to pull Barbara through the window. But yeah, it's
You mean? Are you talking about that coming to get you, Barbara? Are you talking about that one?
That's the one. That's more. That's for me. That's up there with like, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and that's up there with like it's an iconic line like, "Luke, I'm your father." That's for me. It's like on par with that.
So
like,
let me ask you this question.
Okay.
How old were you when you first saw Night of the Living Dead?
Okay. I'm guessing. I bet I was 4 or 5 years old. It's probably my oldest memory of watching film was that movie, and wow. I remember older brother and cousin making me watch it. Scare me, and I recall the scene when you had the scrap with the ghoul,
Bill Heinzman,
in the cemetery, and the scene after he took you down, and he looks up, and he's like the lightning,
the thunderclap, and the lightning.
Yeah, that scared the living mess out of me as a kid, and so as like a rite of passage, of course, I tortured my younger siblings and cousins with it. And
now let me ask you this: when you got a little bit older and started to develop an opinion about the film, how did you feel about the character of Johnny? Did you think he was a complete jerk, like some women that I talked to back in the days when we had conventions, and when I talked to people on podcasts and virtual programs? Some of the women seem to think that Johnny was a bit of a jerk. And I think that goes back to the fact that they probably had a bit of an older brother who was somewhat Johnny-like and tormented them a bit.
So it kind of gave him those flashbacks. Well, I mean, I have siblings. I know you have siblings. So it's like we all gave each other a tough time. And that's how I saw it. It was just, you pick on your siblings.
Yeah, right.
And I didn't see it as him being a jerk. It was just, it was like you find that weakness with your younger brother, or your older brother, or your sister. Right. You find that weakness and you're gonna poke at it, and that's basically what I think Johnny was doing. He knew she was afraid. She had been scared, and
she was afraid. They were far away from home. She was into praying and slowing things down. He wanted to get out of there. So it was a nice setup for that kind of brother sister back and forth, and that's why we structured it that way, frankly.
And also, it's like as soon as the ghoul went at her, Johnny was right there to defend her. Which that's how it works. I could pick on my brother and sister, but anybody else does, they got something coming. And
you're
you know
exactly
what I mean?
Right. Yeah,
it just seemed like real, just family. It's just this show that this is brother and sister, and that's how it is.
Yeah, I have a story, if you don't mind. When Johnny got into the struggle with the cemetery ghoul, now my grandmother, sweet woman, she knew that we were working on a film, but she didn't quite know what it was about. But come October 1st, 1968, we had the premiere of our film in Pittsburgh, and my mother was there, my brother, Gary, who worked on the film, who's one of the officers in Image 10 now, my grandmother, our whole family. And so the movie starts up, and here's Johnny and his pretend sister in the car. Then things start to go downhill a little bit. Then comes the fight with the cemetery ghoul. he knocks my glasses off, and out of the darkness of the theater comes my grandmother's voice, "Russell, he broke your glasses."
That's good. I love those stories. Yeah, that movie, I mean, that must have been pretty shocking for them, not knowing what the movie was about, and then you bring them like, here, come to the premiere.
Yeah, my grandmother was the most naive about it. My mother, whose car we used in the film, her name was Josephine, and she and my Aunt Norma turned out that they were ghouls who show up throughout the picture. So my mother had a pretty good idea of what was going on. The thing that she didn't understand until the night of the premiere was that when that was her car, and when Bill Heinzman broke out the passenger window hitting it with a stone, she never knew that we broke out the window of her car, because my brother had the foresight to go to a junkyard, pick up a replacement window, and we replaced the window before we gave it back to her.
What was her reaction to finding that little bit of news out?
Well, she was always kind of a forgiving mother, so we pulled a fast one on her, but she let us get away with it.
Right. I mean, it probably would have been.
And the damage to the car, the cemetery scene in Night of the Living Dead is unusual for this reason. It was the very first scene we filmed when we started production. We didn't get finished with the whole scene with the fight and everything else. So I gave my mother her car back. She was driving it back and forth to work here in Pittsburgh. And from the first scene, when the car was in pristine condition, to the continued scene where the car crashes into the tree, we didn't damage her car. Somebody ran into her car. That was an actual accident. And we persuaded her not to get her car fixed until we finished with the scene. And when Barbara releases the handbrake in the movie, we figured we have to stop this car somehow. We'll use the damage from the car accident, and George shot it in a way to make it look as though the car creamed into the tree.
That's like there's so much. Just the way everything was shot in that movie was just like it was. Just the only word I come up with is beautiful. How it was shot. It's just everything seemed so. It felt almost like it felt real, like almost like I was watching like a documentary. Right. Like everything just felt so real and like just I don't know. I just love the old movies without all the crazy CGI stuff and all that now, and I like how the performers carry it more than all the flashy stuff. And this, like, you were able to see like so much emotion in all the actors, and like from my understanding, just Dwayne was like the only legit actor in the movie. Him and Judith Ridley, right, were the only like actual actors.
Judith O'Day. I had some training as a legitimate stage actor. That was before I met George.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, how I met him, he came through a mutual friend. He came to one of the live shows that I was in here in Pittsburgh at the Pittsburgh Playhouse. And a couple of months after he came to see the show, he was working on a film at the time called Expostulations. And he said, would you be interested in being in this 16 millimeter film that I'm shooting called Expostulations? And I thought, sure, why not? Why not give it a shot? I was so naive at that time. I knew nothing about film, nothing. And I went to my first day on location, which happened to be in George's in his apartment where he was living. And I was fascinated with the film production process. And I started hanging out with him, and we became friends and eventually became business partners. I was absolutely intrigued to come to understand the film business. And that's how it happened. And George was the guy who introduced me to it. Otherwise, I would be, stuck on a stage someplace with maybe, 200 people watching your performance. Well, now with Hamilton, pre-COVID, they're filling up the theaters pretty well, but it's a totally different world. Theater performance and film performance are totally, totally different.
Right. But I was going to ask you how you and George connected, but it's always good. How
we were right from the get-go. We were kindred spirits. The night that he came to see the show that I was in, our mutual friend was a guy by the name of Rudy Ritchie. And Rudy Ritchie and I were sharing a dressing room. And he said, do you mind if I forget, it was like a Thursday night or something. Would you mind if I brought my friend George Romero back here, because he's really interesting. He's a decent guy. I go to school with him at Carnegie Tech. We're both in the painting and design department. I said, no, I'd be happy to meet him. He brought George backstage after the show, and George was wearing a black satin cape with a red satin lining, spouting lines from Cyrano de Bergerac. I don't know if you know that French play. A movie was made of it that Jose Ferrer played Cyrano. Cyrano had a great giant nose, and people would make fun of him, except Cyrano was an excellent, the best swordsman in France. And George was channeling Cyrano the first night I met him.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. I have to look that one up for sure.
Oh yeah,
I've never been way into a stage and theater myself, so anything I hear is like new to me. So I'll definitely look into that one.
Yeah, give it a shot. Cyrano de Bergerac.
Cyrano de Bergerac.
Jose Ferrer.
All right, and so you and George, you guys just had a good relationship right up until the end? Like, did you guys just work together?
There was a period of time where our business relationship broke up, and we didn't go out of our way to spend time with one another. But as we got older, matured a little bit, we got over that, and we were literally lifelong friends up until the time he passed in 2017. And now I'm good friends with his wife, Suzanne Romero, and I help them out at the George A. Romero Foundation whenever I can. And that foundation is located here in Pittsburgh.
Right. So for the last, it's been 10 years or so, there's been a lot of cool stuff happening around Night of the Living Dead. Like the restoration of the chapel was at probably 10, 12 years ago now.
Yeah, right.
The restoration and of the movie a few years back, which came out beautifully.
Oh, that's our pride and joy. We were delighted that the Museum of Modern Art was interested enough in helping to preserve Night of the Living Dead, and Martin Scorsese's Film Foundation and the George Lucas Family Foundation got deeply behind restoring Night of the Living Dead, and we're really pleased with it. It's for the first time all those almost 50 years, and it finally looked like what we wanted it to look like, the answer print that we made. It looked like that, and it was very rewarding.
Yeah, it was definitely, it was just like special. It was because I'd watched over the years. There'd been so many releases of the film, and some good prints, some not as good.
Some of them were dreadful.
Some were bad, terrible sound, and it was nice to just have a crisp film. Sound was perfect. It was, it was when I went and watched it in the theaters, and I may or may not have had a couple tears in my eyes, but
yeah.
It's,
have you ever visited Pittsburgh? Have you ever been to the Evans City Cemetery?
I've never. That's one of my bucket list things, is to visit the cemetery.
It's become a real destination, actually.
Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, it's one of them things. I want to go and search out a few locations from the film and do the the film nerd tourist stuff, and it's one thing I've just always wanted to go there. And also, I love George's other movies too, so I want to go to the mall and
sure enough
all that stuff.
Well, if you ever get to Pittsburgh, give me a call. I'll try to help you enjoy it a little better.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. So I was mentioning the cool things that have been happening over time. Also, that board game. Did you have any involvement in that? That just got released?
I'm one of the directors of Image 10, and we met the people from Simon in an unusual way. We met them through a crook, actually, a guy who pretended that he had the rights to Night of the Living Dead, and he started negotiation with this big board game company, and he had no rights whatsoever. And when it got down to the nitty gritty, we said, "You're trying to pull something off here that you have no rights to." And we got together directly with the board game company and got that all straightened out. And it's turned out to be a great relationship, and it's a fantastic game. It's coming out this month. As a matter of fact, I think some of the advanced games may have already been shipped. It's very elaborate. It gets into I won't say it's into Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing, but it's very elaborate. It's not a simple, sit down and play it, and in 20 minutes it's over.
Yeah, board games are way, way more advanced than Monopoly and rolling the dice and move around the board. There's good time. Like, me and my fiance are like obsessed with games and board games, so that's what we do. So I got to try to get my hands on this game.
Check it out. It's very, very interesting and very well designed.
Right. Yeah, I've seen like the photos and stuff, and it looks really well made. It's a pretty game. I'll definitely track it down and get it. Was it just released through the crowdfunding thing, or is it going to be actually a wide release in stores? And
I think it's a wide release, but there was a window for the game company. They put together this Kickstarter campaign, and the people who pre-ordered, I'm pretty certain that they're getting their games right now.
Right.
I know that because they had a few of us cast members. The game playing book itself is pretty elaborate, and they had us cast members sign a number of those programs or guidebooks as a little something extra special for some of the people who pre-ordered their games early.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty special. I wish I didn't miss out on the Kickstarter. It got me one of the signed books. But so is there any new news coming from Image 10? Any new Night of the Living Dead stuff? Or
there's always something new going on. I know that people who are into autograph cards and that kind of thing, there's some pretty interesting things coming out. There's always something new going on. There's now a couple of theater presentations, live stage presentations of Night of the Living Dead that have actually been getting fairly decent reviews. One in particular, they both, there was while George was still alive, we made a deal with a theater production company in Toronto where George lived for the last 13 years of his life. And we made a deal with a theatrical company in Toronto, and they did a version of Night of the Living Dead called Night of the Living Dead Live, which was kind of a comedy, what if look at Night of the Living Dead. And the characters went through various what if scenarios and made a very, very charming and interesting rendition of the stage play. And then a really, really imaginative group in England, just this past January and February, right before COVID, they put on a presentation of Night of the Living Dead that was unbelievable. They showed the film on a large screen to the theater, and they had live actors and multiple cameras on the stage, and the actors on the stage matched the dialogue that was going on. The film was played silently. There was no audio on the film. It's just me and Judith O'Day and Dwayne Jones and the others. But we were all silent, and actors filled in our voices. They did an amazing job of keeping live performances up with what was going on stage, and got great reviews.
So, did you actually go over to England and see the show, or did they send you like footage? And
they sent us footage, and it was amazing. I could not believe it. As a matter of fact, when they first approached us, I was the one that they approached. I said, "Are you sure you want to get into this? This could be a technical nightmare." And son of a gun, they pulled it off. Wow. Good for them.
That would be something I would like to see do a tour, just so I get an opportunity to see it. That's pretty cool.
Yep. But, and they used the part of the license was right. That they licensed the use of the restored film, so the audiences in England saw the very, very best picture version of the film that there is.
Oh, that's good that they actually got to use the good version of that. Yeah. So I've taken probably a bit more of your time than I asked for, but and this is the Halloween special. So besides being safe, which we're all hopefully doing, how are you and yours going to spend Halloween? You going to watch some scary movies, or are you just going to hang out? Or
I think probably stay home, watch a couple of interesting movies. Right now, I must admit that I have been very politically active. I won't get into my politics to annoy any of your viewers, but I'm, of course, very, very interested in the outcome of the upcoming election.
Yeah, it's definitely a big one. Definitely a big one. Well, hey, I thank you for visiting the show. It's been
Steve,
honored.
Thanks for inviting me. I hope some of your listeners were entertained about hearing a little bit of behind the scenes stories of Night of the Living Dead.
we love that. This movie means a lot to a lot of people, and I think a lot of followers of our show. It's an important part of their lives too, knowing my community. But yeah, I appreciate you and your contributions, and it means the world to have you on here. And thanks so much. And I hope you have a happy Halloween.
Thank you. And remember, Steve, they're coming to get you, Steve.
I'm gonna totally use that over and over. All right. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Hey, thank you guys for listening to the Steve and Crypto Show Halloween episode. How was that for a special last minute guest there at the end? That was something else. Thanks to our friends TJ Tranchell, Thresa Hendricks, and Mark Pinkney, aka Igorro, for hanging out and chatting. Thanks to Satanic Panic 81 for letting us use his song No More Pain in our intro. And we are going to close the episode with the whole track too. So it's a pretty cool song. It reminds me of like 80s horror synth soundtrack music. It's good stuff. Extra thanks to David Dastmalchian for the Dr. Fearless clip. So make sure you guys read Count Crowley. It's a fucking cool comic book. Thanks to Ivonna Cadaver for the shout out. And we're really looking forward to having her and Butch Patrick on the show soon. And of course, last but not least, thanks Russell Streiner, Johnny from Night of the Living Dead, for sharing some Night of the Living Dead stories with us. And thank you guys for listening. Happy Halloween, and check out No More Pain by Satanic Panic. And everybody will be linked on thestevestrout.com. Thanks, guys.